live here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Nick Farabaugh, Alan Saunders. Alan, first day of Steelers OTAs. This is always the peak before training camp, I guess. It's all downhill from here, guys, really, for the most part. But
we get very excited about the first day of OTAs. By about the 10th day of OTAs, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to be done with this.
Right.
But I feel like this year there's actually a lot to learn at OTAs. There's so much new about this football team right now.
There's a lot more to learn past day one, I think, is the interesting thing, too. But a lot of stuff today that we learned. Obviously, the big headlines coming out today, you're going to read about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Both quarterbacks spoke today. Fields, for the first time, actually, he's a very nice dude. I mean, very clearly, was very happy he got traded to Pittsburgh, thinks he's an ascending quarterback still. But I kind of want to start there, Alan. What we saw, pole position for Russell Wilson, Justin Fields kind of sprinkling in here and there, but how we see that kind of quarterback thing playing out here throughout the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any real competition at OTAs. This is about learning the offense, installing the offense. And, I talked to Russell Wilson, and he was saying, like, this is a new offense for everyone. It's new. It's obviously a new team to the Steelers. There's nobody with any institutional knowledge here except for some of the few guys that came over from Atlanta. So there's a lot of new going on. And it's mostly about learning right now. Like, he's asked, is this a competition? He's like, well, you have to consider every day a competition in the National Football League, but not, more than anything else right now. That doesn't mean it won't be, but the focus here during this part of the year is not on competing. I think it's on learning. And, he said he's known Justin Fields for a number of years. They texted back and forth, going back to when Fields was at Ohio State. He was very happy to be in the same room as him. It feels like they have a good relationship and they can work together. So I think right now it's about trying to become the best versions of themselves they can be, and I think competing, if it happens, will come later in the summer.
Yeah, I think some interesting things you're seeing. You're seeing the classic Art Smith offense, middle of the field, the over routes, the crossers, the play action, some QB run stuff, wide zone a lot, mid zone. That's really, from talking around, kind of what I got. The vibe was the basic stuff of the Arthur Smith offense is what they are installing right now. Basically, everything you see in Atlanta a lot of the time is what you are seeing right now. The other stuff, whether he tweaks things or whatever, probably will not come until, I think we're in the trope. So that's really the base. I think Justin Fields is approaching this with a good mindset. I think he, is taking Russell Wilson's mentorship very seriously. I think, Justin Fields is a really interesting player. I really do. I like Justin Fields' upside. I don't think, right now it's about a competition. I agree with you. It didn't seem like Fields was approaching it like that. He's approaching it more as a learning opportunity. He was very happy to be traded to the Steelers. That was basically the team he said he wanted to be traded to. Mike Tomlin was the reason for that. Is exactly what he said. Those were his words. He wanted to be traded here because of Mike Tomlin and kind of what the Steelers mean to the NFL brand. So we'll kind of see where that goes. I think, just as interesting as Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. We could talk about that for 30 minutes if we really wanted to. Where the rest of the stuff we learned. I think, I learned a ton of different stuff just kind of going around the locker room. You were in the locker room for a little less than I was because you were out with Russ. But I thought, talking about this cornerback situation, I thought was interesting. Ryan Watts told me he's going to play a little bit everywhere. That's outside corner, in the box, a little bit of overhang nickel. You heard from Donte Jackson, who said he's not been told to play in the slot at all. So that narrows down your slot options to probably about 4 or 5 guys. Josiah Scott, probably Anthony Averett. You could probably throw Beanie Bishop in there. You could throw Thomas Graham in there. And then maybe you have a wild card somewhere on the roster. But I think we're kind of seeing this slot competition kind of come together a little bit.
Yeah, Donte Jackson, another guy, said he was ecstatic to be traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talked about how he's so excited to be in a place where there is an established standard. And, he's like, if you think you're a Shark, then you got to be ready to swim with the Sharks. And it's easy to look around at a defense with guys like T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Heyward, Patrick Queen, and be like, yeah, I fit in. This is where I want to be. Said him and Joey Porter Jr. have hit it off fantastically. He said they feel like they see the game the same way, kind of like-minded guys, and said he's giddy. He feels like he's a freshman at LSU again. It's first time, you think about it, I understand that maybe if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, the last 5 or 6 years have not gone the way the Steelers fans want, but imagine spending that time on the Carolina Panthers, and then coming here. It's a pretty different perspective, interesting one to hear from him, so super excited to be here. But yeah, he said he's not played the slot at all, not been asked about playing the slot. Said he would be willing to if that's what the team needs, but it certainly doesn't seem like that's the plan as of right now. So yeah, I think you got your 2 outside corners and your 2 safeties, and they're still kind of figuring out the slot.
Yeah, I think they're still figuring that out. I think what the plan in the slot is right now, I think is going to be to see what they have and the guys that they have right here. See, I think they're going to rotate guys in probably maybe day by day into, the first team reps. One day it could be Beanie, the next day it could be Scott, the next day it could be, that overhang look with Watts. It could be a different few kind of guys in there. They want to see kind of how they stand up, and then obviously they have a few options on the market if they want.
And we've seen them split that role up before. I mean, remember when Hilton and Sutton were younger, like those guys would play run down nickel, pass down nickel. Like you can do it a couple of different ways. It doesn't have to be one guy dominating that position.
But they do have, all three former Steelers corners that we have talked about, Chandon Sullivan, Patrick Pierce, and Cam Sutton still on the market if they want to go that route. So we'll kind of see, but I think they're kind of going to see what they have first. I think similarly, we're going to get a similar kind of plan at wide receiver. I think, that is something where they wanted to add. They've had trade talks, but I think right now we're going to see what guys like Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, what does Calvin Austin look like? Really in Calvin Austin's second year, even though it's his third year in the NFL, the Liz Frank injury obviously knocked out his whole rookie year. This is really Calvin Austin's second season. How does Roman Wilson look? I thought Roman Wilson, by the way, looked pretty good today. He talked a little bit about how jacked up he was kind of to come in here and play against NFL players. I thought he had a pretty good day overall for his first day. So Roman Wilson, I think, right now probably projects as your 2 with Jefferson and a hodgepodge of other guys mixing in there in terms of target volume, what they'll get. I also think Pat Freiermuth talked about kind of his role.
Yeah, I think that might be the 2 target volume was.
He talked about it a little bit today too, and just talking to Pat, he's very excited about kind of the new offense, and they're using him in kind of what he said was, he sees himself being used in a similar way to how they use Kyle Pitts, kind of moving him all around the formation, getting him used as a big receiver, getting him into mismatches, using him vertically, using him, on choice routes, different kind of areas where he really, I thought, shined in 2022. Obviously last year got hurt a lot. So I think that's really where Pat's going to shine. So it's going to be real interesting to kind of see how they kind of hit down that wide receiver market. But Mike Tomlin today did not turn down the idea that they would add to it. And after Omar Khan said at the end of the draft, I still expect them to add someone to that room before the start of the season.
I do. Very interested. Ask Russ Wilson about the playmakers on offense. One of the first guys he went to was Calvin Austin. Thought that was an interesting vote of confidence for the young guy there.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, think, Calvin's maybe on the roster bubble. And I mean, I guess he is just because it's a whole competition. But I wouldn't be surprised if of the, the Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, Scotty Miller, Marquez Callaway, Denzel Mims, all that group, if Calvin Austin is right now maybe at the top of the pecking order, just because I think that they think there's untapped upside with Calvin Austin. I'm not sure they're wrong there. I think we'll kind of see what ends up coming of Calvin Austin. I'm interested to see what he looks like this summer. So other things that, I kind of caught around the locker room, just some notes. Trent Thompson, this was basically one of his first days back as a football activities.
Had that neck injury at the end of last year.
He did not have surgery on the neck injury, so that's good news. But basically, he sat, rehabbing this thing the whole offseason. So Trent's just kind of starting to get back on his feet. Interesting perspectives here from Broderick Jones and Dan Moore. I thought this was the other thing that, kind of went under the radar, but I talked to Broderick Jones and Dan Moore. Broderick did confirm he started today on the right side at right tackle, and Dan did say left side right now. I thought Dan's mentality, as always, is just fantastic for a veteran. He's said he's going to mentor Troy, and Fautanu is going to get all the kind of mentorship he needs from Dan Moore Jr. But right now, what between Broderick and Dan Moore said is the first team tackles are Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle and Broderick Jones at right tackle. But again, it's the first day of OTAs. I think we can expect that to kind of change as we get deeper into this offseason.
Yeah, I asked Mike Tomlin about that, how you decide where you want to start those guys, and he basically said, at this point of the game, you don't want to cross anything off, especially when you're talking about guys you haven't seen before. So, there's lots of tape of Troy Fautanu playing on the left side, so let's play him on the right. Broderick Jones, obviously, they want to see him at the left. I'm sure that at some point this offseason we're going to see him play at the left, but right now, he's on the right side. And so he basically said don't read too much into where guys start, and at this time of year, he's not opposed to flipping guys back and forth to get the best 5 out there. I think right now, that's probably part of the equation. Will Troy Fautanu and Broderick Jones be the best 2 tackles? And then which one do you want to play them at, comes sort of secondarily to that. So a long way to go in that regard, but I think interesting that they're starting that way. Probably not what I expected. I thought we'd see Jones at the left from the beginning.
Yeah, but it's flipped, so we'll kind of see where that evolves. I thought the other kind of interesting note was Mike Tomlin's note on Cam Heyward. Cam Heyward's not here. He has publicly announced that. Also said that he kind of informed the organization ahead of time. Refuting a report earlier today. So Cam Heyward's not here, but Mike Tomlin said they're regularly in contact, so Cam's basically in the loop about everything. we'll kind of see how that extension talk goes.
Yeah,
I'm interested
Mike said
to
it
see.
makes his job easier that Cam isn't here, which like he's not upset. Like no one in the Steelers is bothered by Cam Heyward not being here.
It's similarly on the other side of it. Najee Harris is here after his option got
And
turned
Pat
down.
Freiermuth and James Daniels. So a couple of guys,
all here.
waiting on contract extensions.
And Mike Tomlin, on the Najee front, basically shot down any questions of angst there.
Yeah.
Najee seems to be motivated and ready to go for this season. But I do think, their extension talks are going to be interesting this offseason. They just have so many guys. I expect them to sign one or two guys before the regular season. It's just going to be, who is that going to be? I don't think the pecking order is clear. I think Cam Heyward's, trying to jump to the front of that line with a little bit of pressure, but is he, or is it, Muth, or is it Heyward, or heck, is it one of the quarterbacks they want to get done? I mean, it could be a number of things. Is it Najee?
Jalen Warren out of nowhere. We talked
Jalen
about
Warren
it on
is
the
an
afternoon
RFI.
drive yesterday. So
is it a Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown situation
it's
where
possible.
they extend Jalen?
It's possible.
It could be anywhere, but really, this was a very eventful day for the first day at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. That's really all from OTAs Day 1. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have plenty more to talk about across this team. There's so many different storylines, but make sure you like, subscribe, comment, turn on the notification bell on the Steelers Now YouTube channel. Make sure to read the stuff over at SteelersNow.com. For Nick Farabaugh, Alan Saunders, thanks for watching.